Hi, my name is Kathy Kennedy and I'm the Peconic Land Trust Senior Manager of Outreach. Today I'm with Rick Bogish, our Garden Director here at Bridge Gardens, and we are doing a seed starting program for you so that you can learn the steps necessary to start your garden. So Rick, why is it that you actually do some of your plants with seed rather than just getting plants at the garden center?
Well, let's see. I guess over the years I've developed favorite varieties of certain plants, and I don't usually find those at the garden center, so I like to grow my own. I think it's relatively easy to do, and I think enjoyable too.
Great, great. Well, we have a lot of equipment here. What are you using to get your seeds into the soil?
Well, you want to have a sunny windowsill, I think is good. You want to have a seed flat, and they come in variety of shapes and sizes, and some are plastic and some are made out of peat moss, pressed peat moss. Whatever you choose. I'm very opportunistic. Whatever I can get my hands on, I use. You people use milk cartons, and that works too. You also want a soil mix, a soilless mix. This is a mixture of peat and perlite and vermiculite, and it's sterilized. And that's important because otherwise, growing in indoor conditions, you could have fungus diseases like damping off that would kill your crop.
Do you buy the soil mix just like that, or do you have to make it yourself?
No, you can buy it. This is a brand called ProMix, which I just buy at the local garden center. And there are other brands. They say on the package that they're seed mixes. So that's what I use. I like one you can get them very fine. I like one that's a bit coarse. But timing, I'd say, is very important with seed starting.
Now, why is that? I mean, I would think you could just start the seeds in, this time of year, February-ish.
Well, you can, and many people do. I usually think that you go by a general rule that you need about 6 to 8 weeks to produce a plant that you can put outside from seed, from starting the seed till when it goes out. You can certainly start them earlier, but I think what you risk is getting a really tall, leggy plant that is not going to adjust well when you do transplant it. So that's why I think that timing is critical. Now I started some way too early, so that you could see what a plant looks like after 6 to 8 weeks. We have some cauliflower back here and some cabbage, artichokes, and also leeks. Now, these have gotten to a point where they're sort of outgrowing the size of their cell pack here. So I will up pot them into pots like this using the same mix and grow them here under lights until maybe I can start moving them outside when temperatures are above freezing during the day, and probably bring them back in at night if it does get too cold.
Are some of the plants that you're moving around, are all of them going to be okay by moving them in at the same time and moving them out at the same time, or do you need to be aware of certain kinds of varieties?
I think certainly all these would be fine. Mm-hmm. If I had tomatoes now, I wouldn't put them outside until night temperatures were kind of above 50 degrees. Oh. During the day it was, I would say it would have to be above 50 during the day too. A critical thing about moving plants in and out, and is a common mistake, is to just take these and stick them outside right now in full sun. And what will happen is these leaves will sunburn. They're not used to the full power of the full UV power of the sun yet, because they've been indoors growing under lights or on a windowsill. You have to move them outside into full sun gradually. So start them out in shade. Give them after a couple of days, give them a little bit of sun in the morning. Then shade in the afternoon. It really is you have to adjust them to full sun.
Right.
And that's
right.
a really important step. So today I thought I would just show you how simple it is to start seeds. And as I said, want about 6 to 8 weeks. So this is a little early, you know, I guess I would normally do it at the end of this month, right? So we're slightly early, but I think fine. For things like cabbage, I'm going to sow cabbage today. And then I have a pelleted lettuce seed that I thought you would want to see. It's a little early for lettuce too, but that's okay. Okay, once you've filled your cell packs with soil, you can start planting. And you know, I like to make a little divot in the center.
Just one?
Well, yeah, and I usually put 2 seeds in each divot. These are the cabbage. Again, and then you just put a couple in. You can be, you know, 3 get in there. That's okay. I'll just do a dozen of these.
Doesn't take long.
No, it's really easy. And then, you know, aftercare isn't really that bad either. And then what I do is I just sprinkle. Now, you know, some seeds like to be covered usually, you know, twice their depth. I wouldn't worry about it with things too much. You don't want to bury them too deeply because then they'll never come up and they'll just rot. And then there are other seeds that you'll want to, not really vegetable seed, that you just want to sow on the surface. But mostly that is either, you know, an ornamental annual or I can't think of a vegetable that really needs surface sowing. Sometimes seeds are sold, you know, that was just plain old seed, that cabbage. But sometimes plants are sold with a clay coating on them, which makes them easier to sow and makes spacing easier, especially if you're going to sow these outside directly. Lettuce, you could always just sow outside directly. But what I do is I just put these in like this. And then most of the lettuce I grow is head lettuce. So its spacing is important. You want to give plants at least 6 inches, more like 8, 9, or 12. I go by the fail-safe rule. I always have 2 in there and I plant them out in the garden, and then maybe a week or so later, once they're established, I'll go in and take out 1. So it's just the 1 plant. And that's just because sometimes you never know. Sometimes 1 plant will die and you'll just be left with 1. And that's the same with these. Now, if I do end up with too many plants in a pack, I just go in with scissors and cut out the extras, and that works very easily. So, you know, once you have sown the seeds, you want to water them. And I like to water from the bottom. So what I do is I put them in a flat that's that's sealed, that doesn't have holes in it, and fill it up with the watering can. I might fill it up more than I have here, but and then let it soak from the bottom up.
I guess that probably keeps the seed intact in the soil, right?
Yeah, yes, because it's really difficult to water these sometimes.
Right.
And some people spray instead. I just prefer the bottom watering. I think it's just a lot easier, and it's, you know, sort of more mimics the way it really is in nature in some ways, you know, water, and encourages roots to go down. I think that's good too. Once germination happens, then you'll want to have it under lights or on a sunny windowsill. I use a heat net to encourage germination, hasten it. You could do it in a sunny windowsill. It might take longer and your plants may get a little leggier, but you could still do it that way. But some plants like these don't like hot temperatures that once they germinate. So they like to grow cool. So I've turned the heat mat off. But I certainly would use the heat mat. Helps with plants like tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants if you're starting them early. Because it's the gentle bottom heat and it just makes the air warmer above too. So, but I wouldn't start any plants like that until mid-April. Some people might start them earlier, but for me, that gives me the time I need to get them, big enough and hardened off enough to go outside into the garden by the end of May, early June.
Wow, very good. Yeah, so the timing of planting your seeds, you have to count back, I guess, from when it's going into the garden to really know the right time to start them and then to manage them as they grow and thin them and things like that.